This production is supported using public funding by the National Lottery through Arts Council England. Welcome to another episode of the Bhandwagon podcast, but not just any episode. This is part of a very special playlist around a project that launching or launched, depending on when you get to see this. And it's around becoming a digital warrior. So it's a creative resource booklet for, especially for young Sikh Punjabi women looking to kind of tackle the and kind of arm themselves for social media. So we know the pressures of what social media brings in this modern day and age, and the trials and tribulations, even as parents and guardians. And this booklet is kind of double-edged, where you are, as a parent or guardian, able to kind of pick up tips and go through scenarios with young women, and those young women to kind of look at scenarios again themselves and see how they can kind of tackle it. But the key bit is kind of follow the code that's in there. So to becoming a digital warrior, there's special hints and tips within there. It's supported by many charities and ambassadors, and one of them joins me today, who's been a previous guest on the podcast. Rupinder Kaur was one of the first people I actually saw on Twitter, to be honest, many moons ago, and kind of stood out because it swimming against the grain, really positively opinionated, had a very different take on it. And it was in that kind of cesspit at that time. It was kind of very rare light that you could see people kind of coming out with a different view. And I always remembered. And so when she set up and was part of kind of the Asian Women Means Business, was one of the first guests that I wanted to get on to kind of highlight it. And if you did watch or listen to the previous episode, they were on the verge, or completed their kind of tour, I'm going to put it that, the adventure of Mount Kilimanjaro, and the documentary was on its way being sort of produced. So I've kind of given a little bit of away from there, but I just wanted to set the scene of why this is a playlist that you might not see in the regular order of the other podcasts. So without further ado, welcome, Rupinder. How are you?
Hi, thank you. What a lovely welcome. I'm great. Great to have you to be on here with you. I love what you're doing with this theme. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and I really it was a very good sign of endorsement, in terms of your few words that you said around the warrior. So I'll flash it up. If those who have seen it, have got it, downloaded it, you can get it. For you to kind of give me that, I thought, yes, this is on the right lines, because it can be quite apprehensive, because you're dealing with business every day. You're dealing with helping people kind of achieve their goals. And for me, it was something for me to try and achieve something, and just to get that little bit of kind of acknowledgement, say, yeah, you're doing something right, you're on the right lines. I really valued that. Do you get that kind of feedback when you're doing your projects yourself?
Yeah, yes and no. And I think this is sometimes what happens when you've been doing things for a while, and it happens with you and with others. That I think people and us, our Sangat in general, think, oh, they know that they're doing a great job. But with you, they probably think he knows he's doing great. He's got his podcasts out. He's doing all this great stuff. Of course, he knows he's great. And likewise with me. So people forget to tell you sometimes that, thank you for what you're doing. You're making a difference. This is the impact it's having on me. So that definitely happens with me. And I've been doing this for a while now. And so, but what always happens is when I have a moment of doubt, or when I have a moment of, am I even making an impact anymore? Because what has happened is, in the time that I've been doing this, so many more South Asian women, so many more Sikh women have come forward, and they're doing something very similar. So then you kind of think, okay, do I just back off a little bit now? Always in that moment, a DM will pop up, someone will voice note me, I'll get an email, and it just reaffirms, no, you're doing the right thing, keep going. So yeah, it's always nice to hear it. And I always say that to everyone now, and anyone listening to this, if you are seeing good things happen in our community, honestly, it takes nothing but a few minutes. Send that person a message and just say, well done, this is great. How can I support? It really does mean the world.
What key themes within the booklet and sort of the ethos was it? Because as a parent, a father to a daughter, a young daughter who's just started kind of secondary school, um, you have all these kind of anxieties. I felt a lot of anxiety in terms of like, for her going in there, you live through your childhood again, really, and some of those kind of trauma that comes out. But some of the coping mechanisms weren't necessarily there at that time. The social media wasn't around when we were kids in that side of it. And I always thought, from an expression point of view, how can they kind of vocalize or get some of that emotion out? So this this booklet is around kind of promoting creative arts within that. Inspired by my Bhagavad as being that fearless leader within the Sikh faith, and having that as kind of the mentor, the overarching umbrella of the philosophy of my Bhagavad. You deal with women from various different backgrounds with loads of objectives and loads of dreams for them to try and achieve. How do you kind of utilize a creative methodology, a creative kind of formula to help different women achieve their goals in your organization?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But I do want to just go back to what you said initially with the resource that's been created. And I also, I mean, I have two children. My daughter is a teenager, and I remember when she started high school, we actually didn't give her a smartphone because we were so worried and anxious about everything you've said, about the access they have, about the things that you can't control as parents, about the pressures around social media. And we waited until she was we thought she was mature enough to handle that. And even then, there's so much pressure because there's so much peer pressure. When all of your friends are on those platforms, you feel like you're the only one that's not on it. And what, as parents, we then hear is, oh, everyone's on it. I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the conversations. I feel lonely. I feel isolated. And I love what you said because it brings up your own trauma and it brings up whatever experience you may have had at school yourself. And if that was an experience of feeling lonely or being bullied or being isolated, no one wants their child to go through that. And so that does mean we sometimes make decisions around, oh, Jal, like, okay, you can have this or you can have that, even when we know and our intuition and our instincts are saying as parents, that's not the right thing. So the one thing that we've always done is I've always said we've got to honour the legal age of these platforms. So we've kind of played on that a little bit, but she's getting closer to that age now. So we've kind of pushed it a little bit. But what I loved about the resource that's been created is there's some real practical, tangible tips in there, because that's the thing I think sometimes is missing for not just for parents, but for aunties and uncles and grandparents. Like, okay, if they haven't got their phone, if they're not on social media, what else? What else are they going to do? And in today's age, it's not like it was when we were growing up, like, when you did play in the garden or you went to the park or you did this. So I love some of the exercises that have been listed in here. I love the writing. And so exploring poetry and creative writing and storytelling. I love the connection that's been made with music. Music is such a big part of Sikhi. Our whole scripture, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, has been written in rag. It's the only scripture that's been written to music. It is such a fundamental part of our faith because Guru Nanak Dev Ji knew that Kirtan and music and rag, what it will do for your soul and your spirit, other things won't necessarily have that same impact. So I love that you have put all of that in there. But going on to what I'm doing with Asian Women Mean Business, we have women from all different walks of life that come to us, come to our events, join our membership, join the courses, join the retreats that we're doing. So they could be students, they could be stay-at-home mums, they could be very senior in a professional role, they could be running their own businesses, they could be having side hustles. And the one thing I've always loved to do with them is encourage them to dream big. And in order to dream big, in order to visualize, that is a creative process because you have to take your mind to a place where you may not have had the opportunity to do that before. So things that I love to do is I love for them to journal. And I loved for them to start off with the opening phrase of that journal is, if I had all the money in the world, if I knew I couldn't fail, I would. And I get them to list everything that they would do, everything that they would be, everything that they would have. And what I say to them is that is unlocking something in you, a dream, something that you've got within you that you've not been able to nurture. And then what we do is take that and we create vision boards. So we go and get magazines and we cut out pictures, we cut out phrases, we put that on our vision board. And we set that so that that's a very visual identification of, that's what I want. That's what I want to get out of my life. That's where I want to go. And by the way, I've done that with mums and daughters as well. So I've done this with girls, and it's so incredible, like how big they think when they're younger, because they don't have the limitations that we have on, they haven't been through the failures in life, the hustle and the tussle and all of that. So, but those are a couple of things that work really, really well if you're looking for a creative outlet.
Do you get, this is a bit of a strange question, but do you get a chance to kind of enjoy your work? Because that sometimes can be a lot of pressure, isn't it? That, where you dream big, and then sometimes those dreams could be put in your hands, isn't it, to try and help them execute it. And all of a sudden, you're taking little bits of emotional burden from individuals, and then it can be overwhelming at times. Like life is waves. You have good times, bad times, good mental health, bad mental health within it. Like, how do you kind of help cope dealing with that kind of pressure and sustain that level of excitement?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't feel like it's a burden. I don't feel like it weighs me down at all. It actually really, really excites me. And there's a couple of things that I do to look after myself in terms of my own mental well-being that you would expect me to do, having been in the area of like coaching and mentoring and psychology for 20 years. So I have my toolkit that works for me, which means that then I can support others. But can I tell you something? I've been doing this a long time. No woman, because I work predominantly with women, sometimes men, very rarely. No one has ever shared a dream that has felt so big and so unachievable that when we've sat down together and thought about logically breaking it down step by step, thinking about our network, so thinking about our community, thinking about our Sangat, who do we know, who does so, and how many degrees of separation do we have, how do we get hold of them, that it's at the end of that process that it's felt like this isn't possible. Like no one's dream has ever been that big, that impossible. And I think that speaks to our community. I think that speaks to the successes that we've had, but also the fact that we have so many resources within us that we can achieve it. What we often lack is people that believe in us and people that believe in our dreams and believe that it's possible. So it's such a joy to be able to do that. So it's one of the biggest blessings ever.
I can see and feel a distinct difference from when we had this last conversation. I think at the time you were talking about how sometimes there was a few negative experiences and organizations, rival organizations or rivals, just say general haters, for example, were kind of dragging you down, or some of the kind of campaigns you were doing at that time. How do we've talked a little bit about the toolkit, and one thing is about kind of dealing with sort of the negative experiences of social media or keyboard warriors or think people who you can't see. How do you think you've progressed in terms of that as a woman to start off with, and two, as kind of head of an organization, to be that leader in terms of being that example of maybe not backing it down, maybe not letting it affect you?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think my headspace 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, when we had that conversation, is very, very different. I think I was in the midst of all of that right then in the moment. And when you're in it, you can't see anything beyond it. But when you come out the other end, you can see on reflection and they say hindsight's 2020. It's so true, isn't it? Like hindsight is what gives you the clarity. And when I was going through it, through the disparaging comments, through the being pulled down, and I couldn't see beyond that. But now, having come through the other end, there's so many things that have just become so much more clearer to me. And one of those is really about the fact that it's always down to our own expectations. Like, my expectation was it was going to be easy. It would be straightforward. That if people have said they'll support you, of course they're going to support you. If people have said they've got your back, of course they've got your back. I just didn't expect it not to be anything but that. And so that when it is that as well, so when you have the friction of real life, and that it is real life, and when you have the friction of dealing with other people's egos, their pride, I was dealing with my own ego, my own pride. How dare they speak to me like that? Who do they think they are? How dare they bring me down? So that's my ego, that's my pride. So being in the middle of that is really difficult. Coming out the other end, looking back, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful to our Sangat, to our Guru Sahib, to our faith that has kept us going. And it is the legacy of the women in our Panth, the women like my Bhagor, that you just kind of look back and you think, this is nothing compared to what others have gone through and compared to what they had to hear. An interesting side, actually, just this year, literally last month, I went on a yatra. I went to Pakistan to see all of the historical Gurdwara there. And one of the most significant Gurdwara there is on the site of Mir Mannu's jail. So Mir Mannu was, he had held in captive all of these Sikh women and Sikh mothers and their babies and was pressurizing them to convert. They chose not to do that. And they witnessed their children being killed and murdered, being chopped up. They witnessed their bodies being ripped apart. They were then put together and sewn as a garland and put around their. So I went to that prison. I saw the well that those mums jumped into. That is our legacy. That's our lineage. So when we think about that and think about that same blood runs through us. And then when I relate it to, so I've had a few comments and my pride is being activated, my ego, like, it's so minuscule in comparison. And I think we're so lucky to have that. Like, we're so lucky to have these role models, these real role models, and that we can look to and be like, that's what really matters. Like, can I stand today at this time? Can I stand in their shoes? So yeah, there's so much perspective that comes with time.
It's really hard to kind of follow up where to go after something so powerful like that. You know what I mean? And through those kind of experiences, you kind of realize the first world problems that we actually have. You know what I mean? But I just want to go back onto some of the achievements that you've done, and post your your screening of a Mother Killy, where yourself and a group of your I would say friends, really, because how the bond of that sisters is probably
yes, absolutely.
Went and achieved such a great trip, and came back and have stories and around it. Just tell us a little bit from that point, from for people kind of catching up or kind of looking at your socials and seeing the whole story. Are you able to kind of break it down for us in terms of like how it was set up, what's happened since? And I did kind of catch a little bit of a glimpse that there could be kind of a Mount Everest sort of trip, or in the midst and that. So I could be wrong. I'll put that out there, but are you able to kind of just like give us a bit of an update there?
Yeah, of course. I'd love to give you an update. So in 2022, I organised a trip to Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And we had a group of South Asian women initially, and then a couple of women couldn't make it. So in the end, it turned out to be a group of Sikh women who went to Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And it was the first time that this had been done, because obviously there have been groups before, but there have always been mixed groups. So to have a group of women like that was just incredible. We had a filmmaker join us. So we had Remit Riot join us. And Remit is a documentary filmmaker from the Sikh community. She made Toxification before. And she was joined us with her colleague Daisy. So we did the climb. She filmed it. We crowdfunded that film. So we crowdfunded that film to £80,000. That was Sungup's money, sponsorship, corporate sponsorship. We put our own money in there as well. And the reason for that was because we don't see that level of representation, and we don't see brown women doing that. We don't see women going and climbing a mountain for no other reason other than my soul desires this goal and this dream. I want to do something for myself that's different from what my husband might want, what my parents want, what my children want, what my grandchildren want, because we had a grandma with us as well. So we did that. We filmed it. The film was released last year to a couple of private screenings, and it's going to be coming out on a mainstream platform this year as well. And the feedback has been so incredible. I remember when we had the screenings, I actually held my breath throughout the whole screening, because there's such a huge sense of obligation and duty that you have when you have taken Sungup's money to do something like this. You're talking about representation, about how are they going to look at the film and feel about it. The feedback has blown me away. Like, everyone was just like, this is exactly what we need as a community, what we need to be able to see, what we need our daughters to be able to see as well, because we want them to dream bigger. We want them to do something that's different, something that's not that they don't normally see. So that's been incredible. And if you didn't get a chance to come to the screening, it will be out this year on a mainstream platform. It just takes a little bit longer than I thought. Like, I was so naive to the whole filmmaking process, the fundraising process, the duration it takes to do this sort of thing. And also, bearing in mind, I've got family, I've got kids, I've got the same obligations and responsibilities that most women have. And I'm running a community with hundreds of members, corporate clients as well. But the trip itself was hugely transformative for so many of us. And what I really planted a seed with me, which is I want to see more South Asian women doing this sort of thing. Like, I want to see them tying up their hiking boots, having that big backpack, not being afraid to get dirty, not being afraid to go and walk on a mountain, to sleep on a mountain, to sleep in a tent. So with 2022, we did Kilimanjaro. 2023, we did Peru, and we hiked to Machu Picchu. Last year, the film came out, so we needed to put a pin in it. But this year, I'm taking a group in September to Nepal, and we're doing Everest Base Camp. So we're hiking to Everest Base Camp. There's 8 of us that have signed up to that. And again, very different ages, from 32 right up to 58. And none of us we're not professional athletes. I always say, like, we're built for comfort, not speed. Like, we're just regular people, regular women that want to do something that's a bit different.
That's unbelievable. That is. I mean, to keep ramping it up and pushing, and pushing yourself as well, because it's always, I think some people don't kind of appreciate the amount of effort and the risk that you take, doesn't it? In terms of, like, if this goes wrong, what happens from there? And it's all these are pressures that you take on and to hit those goals and to hit that achievement. And especially in a scene that's not seeing brown women kind of be the leads in this, or kind of even have those kind of experiences. And for what you're doing that is so commendable, and I love it. For it's the epitome of kind of the essence of what the booklet was. I couldn't imagine anything, anyone better than yourself, really, to kind of look at the spirit of it in a different kind of arena. But to physically keep pushing yourself and to do that is such it's so unique in today's world, because, as you said, we are designed for comfort now. How do you then kind of what I know you're going to do the base camp, so in my head it's done. What do you think's after that? Is it then kind of trekking and doing sort of this? Polar Preet is a brilliant example of what she's been doing. The dream. I'd love for her to come on here as well, just to go from it. But, like, seeing what those kind of examples and what people are doing, what do you think is the next sort of the hurdle for you?
Yeah, so by the way, I love Preet. Preet is a friend. She's been such a brilliant ambassador and advocate for us. So she was at our London screening. I give so much credit to Preet being the inspiration for me and others, countless of us. But I remember when she did her first that first trip to Antarctica, and this is what, because she did that the same year we were planning our Kili trip. And everyone just kept saying, oh my God, wouldn't it have been amazing if we could just see what she's doing? Like, for her to know that we can see her and we're supporting her. And she used to do daily blogs then. So she would like send a voice note back to her family, they would blog it. And I always say to her, like, if she hadn't done that, I don't think we would have done the film, because it was her that inspired us to do that. And I know she's training at the moment, and she's planning her next expedition, which is so amazing. But in terms of what we're planning next, I think we need to get Everest done. And there's so much beauty in letting things unfold and just being open to the magic and the creativity of it. Peru and Machu Picchu came about because when we went to Kilimanjaro, we were just having this conversation. You know, as you're hiking, you're spending 6 to 8 hours a day walking, hiking, talking. And so we were talking about, you know, all these wonders in the world. Where do we want to go to next? What do we want to see? And so we were like, oh, we would love to do Everest Base Camp. We would love to do Machu Picchu. This was a dialogue that we were having. And that's how that came about and how Nepal has come about. And so I don't know, but I'm open to magic and creativity, and I'm open to ideas and suggestions, because there are so many different people and groups doing different things. Like, people are hosting retreats in Dubai and Bali and Thailand. I love all of that. That's beautiful. There are other people that are doing trips. I feel like there's so much to be learned from testing yourself, your mental resilience, your physical ability, to training for something, and the patience that comes with that. So I'm training now, and I will be right up until when we go. So there's something about the fact that the reward, it doesn't come straight away. Like, you've got to put in effort and hard work before you get to that point. And that's part of the magic as well. So let's see. I really don't know. Let's see what happens next.
You know, some of the stuff that you said there, you know, is kind of catered towards, let's say, more sort of the adult women in there. Is there similar sort of pathways or similar kind of ideas that you're looking for young women to get involved in, or different kind of treks in there?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I love that. So the whole thing is around diversifying the outdoors and seeing more people that look like us outdoors. So earlier this year, actually, I just wrapped up a project. So for a year, for the whole of last year, so the whole of 2024, I was hosting monthly walks in across Leicestershire. That was a partnership we had with the National Forest. And the whole thing around that was making the outdoors accessible to South Asian girls. Because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If our children are on their phones, on social media, but they don't see an alternative to that, or we're not able to provide them with an alternative to that, then they don't know what else is there. And so walking in particular isn't something actually we tend to do in our community. But we live in the UK. We have some of the best walks across the whole world, like the Peak District, the Lake District. I'm in Surrey, the Surrey Hills. Like, these views right across Wales and Scotland, they will take your breath away. Like, they leave you in awe and wonder. There's nothing that you're going to see on social media that is going to have the same impact as being able to do that. And linking it back to, you know, when we link it back to what we're talking about today and our faith, and thinking about even my buggle, she was a woman of extreme physical ability. And the reason she could do what she did was because she knew she had the physical ability to do that. She had the mental resilience to do that, and the emotional stability to do that. So we know that nature and the outdoors gives you all of that. But that's a project I have wrapped up. I do want to do more of that. It really annoys me when I see kids on their phone all the time, because I'm like, let's go out, let's put our trainers on, let's put our boots on, let's go for a walk. You will never, ever regret going for a walk, even when it's raining, even when it's cold. Like, you always come back feeling invigorated. So I'm a big, big advocate of that.
Rupinder, honestly, I think that's just like the perfect way to kind of bring this conversation at this point to a close. It's been amazing, honestly. I feel really energetic about it now, because sometimes you need that little bit of motivation, and you can tell you're a specialist in what you do with that from there. And I'm really hoping anybody who's watching this or listening to this kind of take some of those really big tips that have just been said today. And it's important, because sometimes, even if we do know that, is to have that reminder, and a reminder can never be a bad thing as well at a point. So just a big thank you for being one of the kind of ambassadors in your organizations to help support this booklet. I really appreciate it, because you don't have to, and your input has always been great, and you've always been an open door for us and that. And wherever we can, especially with the base camp and trying to get the message out, or any other projects, please do let us know, and then we'll help kind of support it where we can as well. So I really like to thank you, Rupinder.
Thanks, Ricky. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I love what you're doing with this resource. I love all the other speakers that you're going to have on. It's such a joy to be able to support you. And if anyone would like to get in touch with me, come and find me. I'd love to speak about everything we've spoken about.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Those